Hey everybody, how's it going? Let's see. You're like in my home at this point. The camera is like hiding nothing. So let's see. Here, we'll keep this rolling. All right, let's see. Who's here? I see Wookie. It's like my romper room. Look through the magic mirror, right? I should put I wish I could set the monitor up there that I can look at you while I'm looking at you. But this was, we'll talk about the studio setup is not optimal, but you know, it'll improve over time. But let's see, Wookie and Andy and Animotion. Hey there. There's Doug. Let's see. Is that a stock preset on the third wave? Probably. I think it is. I haven't made that many on it. We'll talk about that, Doug. Dubstation 0. This is so much better than looking at a push. Well, you know, you get to all of this, right? This is, I've got an OnlyFans for dad bods. It's awesome. Let's see, who else is here? Let's see, Music Smurf, I Sing the Body Electric, hello. Who else is floating in? Dr. Cynthio. Let's see, the lower two form a great pair. Are you talking about the synths, or I don't think the camera can see below my waist. How are you using the Launchpad? We'll talk about that. Launchpad is controlling live in session mode. I'm not using it to play though. Which is why my playing is, my keyboard skills are weak. Let me know if the mic is clear. I got this I've got a gerbil stapled to my collar here. We'll see if it's working. It's a wireless mic. I'm still tethered with the headphones, right? Because audio, wireless headphone latency is just, it bugs me. But let me know if the mic's working at least. It's super convenient, right? We'll talk about that too. Let's see. Quasar, hello. Shenanigans. Homegrown. And let's see. Meek Spirit 1, hello. If I'm missing anyone, sorry. Viral Beats, hey there. Will Esplin. And Country Fair 74, greetings. All right. And the mic is good? Thank you, Quasar. Let's see. And all seems good. Had to crank the TV level though? Okay. So the actual stream volume is a little on the low side. I can fix that. Well, hold on a second. Blurg. Here, we'll do that over here. 1 second. Oh. That may be why. Yeah, okay. Well, so hold on a second. We're going to, it's never good to play with the master audio stream like live, but let's try and be helpful. You guys tell me whether this works or not. All right. So we pull this and we look at our levels and we're peaking there. Let's add 6 dB of gain. I'm gonna slowly turn up the mic. How's that? Is that too much? How about that? Let me know. So if I redo this, tell me if I don't want to blow anybody's speakers out. That better or worse? Let's see. That sounds good. All right, cool. I don't have a limiter on the system right now, so let's not blow anyone up here. But I hope that's okay. Cool. So what's going on? All right, so what are you looking at here? All right, what are you looking at here? You know, I really need more monitors. Okay, we're looking at my dad bod and all the rest of these synths. So this is the Flagship setup. So I said I was setting up this studio to have little sort of stations, and the Korgs are over there with the push. Like for those, I did read the comment. It's so nice to not see the push. Okay, well, guess what? The push is coming back next week, but then it's going to rotate around. So we've got the Korgs and the push are sitting over there. The Dallas rig's over in that corner. The Matriarch is sitting next to it. And then this was the last thing to try and set up. This was the Flagships, right? And so it's a Nordwave 2 and a Summit and a Hydrasynth and a third wave. And they're all running into live. I'm not using the push is over there, so I'm using this Launchpad Pro to sort of kind of control the session, set up looping and things like that, do recording, mute the mic, things like that. And it's working pretty well, but this was a bit of an adventure because I normally don't run like this. I really historically don't run like this. I like having a centralized controller that goes out and talks to everything. And so I live in fear of MIDI loops, right? And I don't mean like loops, like Clips loop. I mean like MIDI signal looping, right? Because I've got stuff coming from live in, and I've got the MIDI going from the synths out and all the CCs and stuff. And so I want to be able to play any synth, hear it, record the MIDI, and then have it flip over to playing back. And it should work, but many, many moons ago, I used to have trouble with getting these MIDI infinite loops, and it really has to do with using MIDI through, which I'm not using at all anywhere. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But this is a new rig. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move through these 4 rigs every week. So this week is Flagships, next week is the push and the Korgs and the sub 37, then the Dallas, then the Matriarch with the modular, then back to this. We're just gonna loop it around because I was getting kind of bored. And this keeps it fresh, and it also forces me to do some sound design on all of the synths as opposed to, you know, soft synths, which I generally, what I do on the push, right? Especially with the Korgs, because I'll use all the Korg VSTs, design the sounds there because it's convenient, and then move them over to the hardware. So that is the state of things. All right. I experimented last week with the whole Q&A stuff, and it was okay, but again, I don't have enough monitors to keep everything up. So if you have a question, just tag me, and if you're on mobile or something, put a couple capital Qs at the beginning. So let's talk about these synths. So what you're hearing is the Wave 2. Pardon me while I turn off this metronome that's ticking in my ear. There we go. The Wave 2 is a synth and a sampler. And so what we're hearing right now are samples of the oscillators off of a Lyra 8. So. And everything you're hearing is coming from the Nord itself, all the effects, everything. It has excellent effects, the reverb in it in particular. If you like that giant, you know, black hole style reverb, it's really good. Let's see, for giggles, actually, I gotta group these. Hold on a second. There it is with no envelope applied. And basically what I did was I just sampled fifth intervals. So I did C, F sharp, C, F sharp, C, F sharp across the lyra, because that's all I was willing to do, because it's such a pain in the ass to tune it, right? So it was dialing in C's and F sharps, you know, as we go up. I think I did like 5 octaves, maybe not 6. So anything, you know, past there is just repeating, it's just transposing the sound down, and it will degrade. But it started pretty low, so really it's the high end that suffers. Gets a little shrill, but you can, you know. What does it sound like without the reverb? Here you go. There's some delay on there too, we'll turn that off. Oh, you know what? Hang on a second. Group. There, we'll turn it off. Do I have delay in live? Hang on a second. Where's the delay coming from? No. Might be coming from a layer I'm not paying attention to. Oh, that's why. Got to turn on and off the right thing. There we go. Yeah, so that's just the sample. So I like the lyra a lot, but I like it when I can tune it a lot more. So let's see. Hey, Doommonger. The Lazarus Pit. Hello. There he is. Harmonic Sonics. Greetings. We've been having discussions in comments. Thomas Jan, hello. Big Day Synths or Big Synths Day. Yeah, it's Flagship Day, right? So let's see, turn these all back on. Yeah, so that's the Nord, right? So we're using it to drone mostly. Let's see. And then we're running the summit, right? And I'm a sucker for turning the mod wheel to control LFO rate. If you've watched any of my streams, you've seen me do this a lot. It's like the easiest way to really fast expression. I haven't spent enough time with the Summit. When I first picked it up, so as we were discussing this, I think last week or in one of the other streams, at least for me, standard synth behavior is, I think I talked about this in the podcast with Taskboy. We buy a synth, we unbox it, we play with it for a week, right? And then we're thinking about the next synth, right? Regardless of whether we're actually going to go buy it. And so synths have to like age like wine. They need to be placed in a rack like wine bottles, right? And they need to sit and sort of ferment for a bit. And then two things drive you back to them. Eventually you go, there's a fine layer of dust on that bottle of synth, right? And you go back to it. Or say something happens like, oh, firmware update. Well, all firmware updates tend to be install the new firmware. It's a new synth, right? So yeah, anyway, So this got a lot of play when it first came up, and then it just sort of, it's sat for a while. So putting these flagships out together as a station is me trying to get myself to lay hands on these things more. Now I'm a collector, so it's not that much of a problem if, you know, it's living under a dust cover for 3 months. Some people are offended by that. I am not, right? I still love them. I come and pet them, and I think about them longingly. And then we get back around to it. But let's see, what's some of the other things in here? This got a lot of play at you know, just a sublime like CS80 horn, but not layered, right? Not beating. The Summit, or just the peak, right? Because I don't think this isn't a stack. So I'm not playing, the Summit is 2 peaks welded together, basically. And this is a single layer. So effectively, if you like this sound, you can go get a peak, right? What are a couple other examples real quick? I hope I don't bore you guys too much. I tend to get lost, right? You have these moments. Let's see, other things that I really like on here. So Berlin School. So the Summit's arpeggiator, like I'm a big fan of arpeggiators, most people are. Both the Nord and the Summit have really interesting arpeggiators, different. But they both have a pattern mode where it's not like a sequencer. You're not telling it what notes to play, but it's like you're building or telling it to use a gate pattern. So most arpeggiators play whatever the time division is. It says, I'm going to play every single one of those, bip, 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 right? But on the Wave 2 and also on the Summit here, there's a pattern dial or a rhythm dial. And you can tell it to basically, it starts masking certain notes out of the arpeggiation. So if I play with the rhythm here. Right, same chord. It's not exactly like changing like there's a type as well. So if you want to go up or down or up and down or random or whatever. So, big fan. Let's see. Just looking for tags real quick. Let's see, you all talk amongst yourselves. That's good. I'm going to come back to grit and the oysters later. Someone post Harmonic Sonics post a, if I search on Bandcamp for grit and the oysters, will I find you guys? Because that's awesome. I guess if it's covers, you may not be able to, right? I don't know. Doug says, is that a stock preset? On the Summit, that was like a random ARP that I ended up tweaking. The patch started out as something called ambient ARP, but see where it goes. Yeah, the pattern dial, it's pretty awesome. I'm a big fan of being able to change the patterns. I wish it maintained rhythm when you change the pattern, right? So like when I change the rhythm, it sort of like, you know, freaks out. That may be something I could change in the settings where it changes the pattern in time with the MIDI clock, but I haven't looked. Yeah, so that's half of our sort of flagships for the day here, right? Let's see. I'm just looking at the chat. 1 second. Need more succulents? Yeah. So behind the camera, there's a bunch of English ivy draped over the bookshelf. Does the Hydra pattern too? Quasar asks. I haven't dug in. So I have a weird relationship with the Hydrasynth. So when the Hydrasynth first came out, I bought one right away. And I bought the rack unit, the module. And if you had an early Hydrasynth, you know the experience that you may have had the same experience that I did. It was super buggy when it first rolled. And it was things like that were imperative to me, like clock sync and things like that. And it would just do strange things, weird noises and things like that. And I'm like, is this a defective unit? You know, what is it? And so I held on to it through a few firmware upgrades, and then I got rid of it. Because it also, to me, sounded thin, which is, I recognize that it's super subjective. And I think that may be my view of it was colored by the sort of bugginess of the operating system and things like that. Because, you know, several years later, and many firmware revisions later, I had an opportunity to pick up a Deluxe because I wanted the key bed. So picked one up. I still think it could use a little EQ. I'm not saying it sounds thin, but it could use a little EQ. But due to my history with the Hydrasynth, I haven't dug into it as much as I should, which is another reason it's coming into the sort of flagship sort of zone here, station, because this is going to motivate me to actually dig into it. So I don't know if it has a pattern mode, but we'll find out. Like I'm a big fan of RTFM, right? And Emotion says, was the Hydra the one you used as a laptop stand? Yeah. So when I picked this up, so it's got a little section over here and a little sort of L-shaped steel frame that hangs off the back, specifically to use this space for gear. And so when I bought it, I did post to YouTube a picture of this with my laptop over here. And I said, look, it's the most expensive laptop stand I've ever bought. So yeah, Anna, I did. The reverb on the Deluxe isn't your favorite? Yeah, so I like the reverb on the Summit and the Nord very much. But like I said, I haven't dug into this. It's not, I'm not using any external processing on it. One thing I have noticed is that when you are arpeggiating and you've latched the arpeggiator, latch. So this is what I was doing there. It will get out of sync after minutes, okay? So if you're playing arps and you're just, you know, holding a chord for a few bars, no problem. But if you're droning and you want to drone that arp and you want that arp to stay in sync with the overall clock of the system, it drifts. So, but again, I'm digging in and I haven't gone into the ASM forums, you know, or found a Discord, you know, for them yet. Haven't really gone looking yet, but I'll get there. And so this may be a solved problem, and I'm unaware of what the solution is. There's only about 2,000 settings in the settings menu. That's the other problem with the Hydrasynth, bad eyes, tiny screens. So I end up doing this a lot, and that's hard on my back and things like that. So these are me problems, right? It's not that big a deal. You were hoping that Ask Luke is faster than RTFM, so I don't know. Sorry, Quasar. Let's see. So the one thing I love about the Hydrasynth is this sort of map of its behavior, right? As far as like going in. So the ARP has, let's see, tempo, ratchet, chance, which is like pattern, right? So chance, you can specify a percentage chance of like any given note should it play or not. Gate length, modes, so up, down, left, right, you know, back to front, pendulum, the number of octaves it crosses, the time division, and swing. So I don't see pattern. There's tap tempo, triplet, latch, and then on. Although there is something here that says edit. What's in edit? Tempo external, mode, octave, division, swing, mode, gate length. Oh, it will ratchet. That's nice. Chance, and you can do step offsets. Interesting, something called clock lock. So in the settings for the ARP, there's a parameter called CLK, clock lock. That sounds dirty. All right, so let's turn it on and just see what happens. Let me turn my metronome back on my headphones here. Hang on. Let's see if maybe that's the magic that's required. Yeah, a second. Kill the latch. All right, I'm listening to the metronome in my head. It's in sync right now. We'll let that run. We'll let that run for a minute while we look at the chat, and we'll see. Let's see, catching up on the chat here. Quasar also has a. You too have a synth in storage in the wine rack. Okay. Hey, Wabbit. That's cool. That's nothing wrong with that. It's okay, man. It's under voice settings. I'll look it up later. That's fine. So we got time, right? So I'll keep playing with all this stuff as we go through. So this is that. Let me simplify this drone. Let's do the old drone. I like the Lyra drone. All right, So what's going on here? This is not a transposition, it's not the jelly beans. This is literally just me using the Launchpad Pro to control live. So at the opening intro, I recorded a quick clip in here. I've got some rhythm parts that I can start and stop. Right, these are just things that I threw together, you know, prep. Nothing like a floor tom and a sub to, yeah. All right, let's make a little noise for a minute. Actually, let's do this. Bring this back. I gotta dance around. All right, let's talk about the third wave here. Prep. So prep, Wookie. When I say prep, so for streams and stuff, if I'm going to focus on trying to do some kind of jam, I will often prep rhythm parts, right? Because I'm a terrible finger drummer. So these are just some drum loops that I made in advance on the move, right? Get those in there, throw them over, throw them into Ableton as clips. They're here, and you can launch them and things like that. So prep. That's what I mean by prep. If I'm trying to do something that's like a concert, right, or an extended jam, right, I will prep. Sometimes I'll prep parts as well. Like if I'm going to do sudden dramatic chord changes, right, or I've got an A part and a B part, I want to do song structure. Like if you want to do song structure, it's really hard to live loop a song structure without some kind of preparation. The Jelly Bean transposition thing allows me to do that. Relatively easily without having to prep, because I can jelly bean in the chord changes. But in this case, like I don't have that set up. So if I wanted to do a song structure thing, an A part, a B part, a verse, a chorus, I would probably have some backing, accompaniment, right? Because I want to solo and play the melodies over it. Maybe I'll do a bass part, I'll move some things around, do some sort of bass reharmonization. But like the chord bits or the Berlin School beds, if I want to move through some patterns, I will prep and I'll have like loops of MIDI like prepared, A part, and I'll fire it off, A part, B part, etc. So that's what I mean by prep. There's a scale or a spectrum of how much effort you want to put into preparing the performance versus how much and sort of how dramatic an experience do you want your listeners to have versus how do you feel about preparatory stuff, right? Because nobody likes like lip syncing, right? I don't want to lip sync. I don't want to just press play and then fake it, right? But some people do because it's a valid form of performance. But, so you decide where you fall on that spectrum of how much preparation More preparation, more just press play. Less preparation, more 100% live performance and live improvisation. But I find things that are pure improv get kind of boring to do, right? It's like, ugh, I wish I could do a dramatic bridge into a key change, right? It's tough. You can't do that without some prep if you're by yourself, right? That's why people form bands, right? Work together, ensemble style. You were joking? Oh, I thought you were serious. Sorry, Wookie. Jelly beans. So Doug, if you go look at any of the old streams from the last month or two with the push, and over on the side of the push, there's a little teeny Launchpad Mini, and you'll see me pressing the colorful jelly bean-like buttons on it. That's doing chord changes. And I explain how those work in those streams. So let's see. Yeah, right, Biscuit, right. It's a bit of both. You avoid too much serious. That's okay, Wookie. I cannot, like, it's text on a screen, you know. I think there's like some sort of agreed upon the youth culture has some sort of like shorthand for text-based faces, not faces, implied attitude, right? So /S for sarcasm, that kind of stuff. I never learned it. My son would try to teach me to it. So, oh, am I missing things in live chat? Sorry, I am in top chat. There we go. All right, so that's that. Let's talk about the third wave here. How are we doing on time? Oh, good, we got some time. I know it's far away, but this thing I'm super proud of. Okay. I don't, like, I try not to, like, I have a collection of synths. I'm proud of it, but I don't like constantly, I don't have an Instagram where it's like, here's pictures of synths constantly, blah, 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 blah. But I am super proud of this synth, okay? This isn't, so this, I can't remember what it is on the back. I should look at the serial number. It's a very, very low serial number because when this was announced, Bob Coover, I don't remember if it was at Super Booth or Music Mess, but Bob Coover got up from Groove Synthesis basically, and nobody knew who he was. And he was like, I'm making a thing that, we have a new company and we're making a PPG successor, right? And I really, really like the PPG. And this was years ago, right? Before there was any, like the collector in me was like drooling, right? It's like, oh, okay. So I hope it's gonna be good. And he gave his demo about it here. Let's start it droning here. We'll just leave that running in the background. I'll make some noise in a minute. Anyway, so he announced this. It looked really good. And the pedigree of the people working on it was really good. Like there were people from Sequential and other places. And there was a deal, right? It was, we want to do this synth, it's not ready yet. It's not that they were looking for investors, but they were like, we're taking pre-orders. And the pre-order process was you email Bob, like, here's my email address. Send me a note saying you'd like to, maybe pre-order one of these. And the deal was half up front, half when it's ready. And so that's what I did. Now, the risk you run with doing that is the early versions off the assembly line, they don't always find all the bugs, right? And I'm not talking about software, I'm talking about like hardware bugs. And so this came, super excited, and it was full of bugs, software and hardware. So it turns out, not terrible hardware bugs, but I had to have the main board replaced, which they did free of charge, didn't cost me a thing, just time and a little effort because you have to remove it. And like they're pretty good. There was a chance I can't remember exactly how you reproduced it, but it was like if you power cycle or you turn off the device while the USB port is in use, it could fry the main board or something like that. It was a problem with the USB system. And so it needed to be replaced. And so gave me instructions, pulled out the main board, sent it to Groove Synthesis. They turned it around, sent it back. And when they sent it back, the main board I sent them, the main board back, on the back of the main board is all the jacks, right, that come out the back of the synth and you have to screw them in. Well, on the one I sent them, there was a little teeny thin like spacer, like a piece of plastic, like a strip with a bunch of holes punched in it, and it sits between the jacks on the main board and the metal chassis. And the one they sent me didn't have that. And so when I went to put it in, there was a gap and everything was, it wouldn't tighten well. It was a little loose. And I don't know if that was needed for like isolation or what. So I, shot them an email and was like, hey, it's missing this thing. And they're like, oh, no problem. They FedExed one over to me. Put it back together, it was all good. And then the early firmware of the third wave was as buggy as the early third firmware of the Hydrasynth, right? The sync was terrible, ARP wouldn't stay in time, all sorts of weird behaviors. And this particular synth its dynamic range is very, very large. So there's an inbuilt compressor on the main line. And like, it's really easy to deafen yourself early on. It's gotten a lot better, right? If you've ever used an Ensoniq Feesmo, right? The Feesmo is legendary for having like filter resonance that's piercing and, hearing damage levels of that. I'm not gonna say I injured my ears with this, but I nearly shit myself a couple times, right? Going through the presets because the maximum, the level of the presets early on was like, very, if you go from something that's a single oscillator lead to something that's using like all 24 voice unison, big difference, right? Anyway, so needless to say, I didn't pay the prices that you see this being sold for now. So I got in early, paid a little upfront, paid the rest when it shipped. And so this is a very dear synth to me. So let's make a couple pieces of noise here. Let's see, what did I want? Let's see, let's go to, as far as synths go, you've probably heard me complain about the favorites system that the Korg Raspberry Pi based synths have. It's good, but not great. This has a similar system that is pretty good. I don't know. But this is what you heard at the beginning of the jam. Oh, hold on. Full disclosure. This particular sound, I've got Ableton Reverb on. Now. Right, I've got a big old Ableton chamber on this. Anyway, hang on a second. What is the MIDI Solutions T8 box? Asks Doug. What are you pixel peeping? That's a MIDI splitter. It's an 8-port splitter, or 8-port splitter. That's what it is, Doug. Biscuit doesn't get text shorthand. Yeah, I don't either. So. You're old Wookie, that's fine. Let me quickly scan the chat and I'll go back to making some noises. Was Tangerine Dream seminal in the creation of the PPG with Wolfgang Palm? Yeah, it's like an I/O shield, the thing I pulled, that strip that is in the back. All right, so let's see, a couple other sounds here. That's one, and we've also got, let's turn off the reverb. We could do some classics. So it is a wavetable synth, but hang on a second. I got to mute my microphone. The keys on this are clacky in a good way, but the mic picks it up, and then the compressor shuts down the audio, and you get a dip at the beginning. Hold on a second. This is more PPG-ish. So if you hold, we'll just hold this pad out. So they weren't kidding. There's a knob on here. We all love the filter frequency knob. There's a big old knob on here, twice the size of all the other knobs on it, that's labeled Wave Surfer, and it's used to offset the wavetables. So if you want to play, if you love that filter envelope, pull out your Mini Moog and wow. The equivalent of that on a PPG is, or on the third wave, is this, the Wave Surfer. It applies an offset. Anyway, so you could tell it was made by nerds, right? Kids who like this, they like what they like. We'll do one more. This is a nice Kodo. I am going to put this reverb back on. So it has a nice effects system in it, but it's good enough. I don't think it's as good as the Nords or the Summits, but in the context of like mixing it in with other synths, it works fine. But for things like this Kodo, for example, which is not modeling, but emulating a Kodo, having that extra ambience. I am not going to play the classic PPG sounds because they're everywhere. So it does them, right? There's like a chapter in the manual specifically that says, if you want to turn the third wave into an exact replica of the PPG 2.3, here's how you do it. And it gives you the laundry list of the settings and things like that, right? You can literally turn it into that. Or you could go buy the Behringer one. That works too. Anyway, so how are we doing? It's 3:01. Okay, so we'll do this. All right, so I think that's about it for the day. So we had a good time here. This is the new Flagship sort of station, and it'll come around in rotation once a month. So next week is the Push and the Korgs, et cetera, et cetera. And so you can tune in for the station that you're interested in, right? So if you want the modular, come for the Matriarch modular one. If you want the Dallas stuff, come for the Dallas rig. Or if you like the Ableton and the push and the Korgs, you can come for that one. Okay, so try and mix it up, keep it entertaining for you. I don't get bored, it's all good. So let's see, how many FX inserts harmonics on the, if that's a question for the third wave, there are 2 effects inserts per layer. There are 4 layers. So you can think of it as like 4 synths, right? 4-part multi-timbral. So you can have different effects on every layer. You can also have different arpeggiator and different sequences running on every layer. So from a making Berlin School beds perspective, it's awesome, right? It's just like, I'll do a layer that's a bed, I'll do another layer that's a bed, I'll do one more that's a drone, and then I've got a lead on top I can play with. Then it's all out of one synth, right? But there are other synths that do that too. The Nordwave is 4-part, what is it? The multi-poly is 4-part multi-timbral, right? Multi-timbrality is coming back. The thing that, the only synth, the third wave is the only synth I have that actually is 4-part multi-timbral that has discrete stereo pairs for every layer. So if you've got external processing or external effects you want to run on those 4 layers when you're sequencing them or playing them, you can do that on the third wave because it's got discrete outputs. That's awesome. The only other synth I have that does that is the Nord Lead A1, and it's only got 4 discrete outputs. They're mono. You can get 4 monos. You can't get 4 stereo pairs. So it's pretty sweet. Let's see. Hey, Uncle Chrome. Looking, I'm just scanning for cues or tags. And then I think we're going to shut her down because I've been going about an hour. Yes, in 2 minutes it will be 3:03. All the stations. Yes, Andy. All right, I think that's about it. Cool. All right, well, hey, thanks very much for showing up. This is this particular station. You get to see all of me in my glory. Always fun. We'll see what happens over the next few months as you know, people said, we want to see more of you in the studio. So I said, fine. And I gained 30 pounds. So now there's more of me. All right, we're out. Thanks, guys. I will talk to you all later. All right. See ya.